Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, Leveraging Data for GRESB Greatness. My name is Carrie Booth, and I'm the Solutions Engineer here at Dobie. I'll be moderating our webinar today. A few housekeeping items before we begin. First, today's session will be recorded, and everyone will receive an email link with the recording following the webinar. Second, if at any point you have a question about our topic, feel free to submit it through the GoToWebinar interface. We'll spend some time at the end answering any questions that have been submitted. Now, let's introduce today's speakers. Dan Winters is the head of Americas for GRESB. He works to further GRESB's international scope and impact by engaging institutional investors throughout the Americas, establishing industry partnerships for ESG data, and expanding GRESB coverage among REITs, private equity firms, and multinational lenders. He earned his master's degree in real estate finance and development from Harvard, MBA from Southern Methodist University, and is an alumni of the University of Wisconsin Real Estate Program. Mr. Winters is a lecturer at Colvin School of Real Estate at University of Maryland and a counselor of real estate. Healy Lev is Dobie's Chief Revenue Officer. She has more than 15 years of experience in commercial real estate globally with customers such as Motorola, Bank of America, Cisco, MasterCard, HSBC, Fidelity, McDonald's, as well as several real estate private equity funds and REITs. In 2012, Healy joined Dobie following her MBA at Kellogg and 8 years at JLL. As CRO, she leads the commercial SaaS business and human resource department. And with that, Dan, the stage is yours.
Well, excellent. Thanks so much. Thanks for having me here today. It's really nice to be here with Henry. As you know, he's sitting down here by our feet. He's a good-looking dog.
He's just going to take a nap, though, while we do all the work.
Well, that's all right.
How does that make you feel?
Well, as long as I comply with his wishes, I think we're in good shape. All right. Well, so how should we start here? Look at what the Dobie people have done. Yeah. So we have some. GRESB is celebrating its 10th year, right? We made it through the J curve. It was a good idea back in 2009. Thank you.
Mazel tov, as my people say.
Well, and you guys celebrated yours last year.
Yeah,
right?
That's right. In November, so we're somewhat aligned. Coincidence, maybe.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Absolutely.
All right. Well. Yeah, I think that picture right there of me was used in our last results event. It might show up a little bit later on in these slides. Not sure.
Might have been. And I am happy to say, happy to welcome you back. Is this our third or fourth annual Dan Comes to Chicago in February webinar?
Well, at least we didn't get last week's weather, but tonight I do understand it's going to be single digits. So it's always fun to come to Chicago. I am a Midwesterner. So here's what we're going to do today, right? We're going to talk about data quality, and maybe talk a little bit about the last 10 years and sort of what GRESB did to elevate data in the real estate industry, and then try to project forward what the next 10 years looks like and why this is a really important topic. And so I wanted to start, so Healy and I were talking yesterday as we were thinking about our time together here about what's new. And that had me reflect upon the start of the year, right? It's a month old. And it's been off to a real strong start. I think ESG has a lot of momentum. Two important things to note. One is the IREI VIP Americas event was held in early, well, I suppose mid-January out in California. And they published the ESG Means Business for us. At that event, you've got basically 400 folks who are capital raisers and portfolio managers. And two topics were really bubbling to the forefront. One was resilience, and the second one, they actually had a full panel on data quality. So data quality is certainly an issue from the private equity side. And then last week in Florida was the NAREIT ESG Forum. And, they continue to expand their size and scope of this event. There were 130 people that came with 70 companies.
Wow.
A lot of new faces, a lot of hands shot up when asking how many people were going to participate in the GRESB assessment for the first time. So I take those as two real strong signals that 2019 is going to be a good year going to close the decade, and 2020 will be great.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm happy to hear about the new faces as well, because I know within that cohort you definitely have the veterans, which is something that excites me about this industry anyways, because you have people that have been at it for 6, 7, 8, 9 years, and they're still hungry, and they got fresh legs, and they still want to do new things and figure out what the next edge is. So good to get some fresh blood in there as well. The
people that came that were new were really struck by, first name basis with dialogue from the stage to the audience. And I think that's a nice thing about real estate is it really brings people together who want to share best practices and help the industry propel forward.
Absolutely, yeah. It's a tight-knit group, and I think everyone, just a good energy in that room.
Right. Okay, so so then if you think about our timeline, we're early in the first quarter, but we're steaming along to the assessment, which opens up on April 1st. No fooling for those of you on the line, right? And good. Speaking of the folks on the line, don't we have maybe 150 plus? I think that was the count yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. This one tends to draw a good audience, even though it's February in Chicago. I guess it doesn't matter when you're dialing in.
Well, for the people that want to come in person, that's in March, and that's what the training's all about. So we've got a pretty extensive and exhaustive schedule globally, starting off in Hong Kong in the early March 8th, and then I'll be here back in Chicago on the 12th. And we've got events in North America in San Francisco, New York City, Toronto, Montreal, all throughout March, for the folks that are both the new people that are interested in GRESB, as well as the veterans, as you refer to them, who will come to our advanced training and be sharing some of their best practices.
Excellent. Exciting time of year.
Totally. And then for those on the phone, underneath our event section is where you can find the training. And also, I like to say that ESG is content dense and cerebral. So our website can be a bit of a treasure hunt. If you were to look for some of these things, it's under the resources tab, and it opens up a whole slew of documents. Our real estate scoring document, the branding guidelines, the pre-release that just came out on February 1st. So I encourage folks to know that that's the resource for places to go to learn more about GRESB.
But if you can't find it, Dan encourages you to just text him.
Well, please do, and I'll direct you right to that URL. So with that, Healy, what's new with Dobie?
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for asking. A lot of new and exciting stuff here. I think we had 6 new hires at the beginning of the year, so just getting everyone up to speed and all of that. But a new thought for Dobie this year. So obviously we've always been ESG focused all 10 years that we've been around, but we're kind of taking a step back now and looking at ESG as it relates to the greater notion of enterprise data automation. So ESG is just a subset of other information, and a lot of the ESG data that we get, it originates from bills, right? And no matter what the end use is, be it GRESB, Energy Star, CDP, sustainability report, whatever it is that you're trying to do, the data is originating from the same place. And what we're exploring now is that there's a lot of customers that we work with that have some repetitive or redundant processes with accounts payable and ESG trying to process the same bill, trying to extract essentially the same data from the same bill that just need it for a slightly different function. So we're trying to look at how that fits into the bigger picture and how we can help fund sustainability programs, because that's the other thing, right? So sustainability, we love it, we live it, we talk about the veterans in the room, but at the end of the day, it tends to err on the side of nice to have, not need to have. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to be creative about, whereas paying those bills and accounts payable, that's a need to have, right? Got to pay your bills, stay in business. So we're trying to work with our customers to eliminate some of the redundancies there and become more relevant to the AP process and get the bills before they enter the organization and get them to where they need to go. So it's just a bigger notion of enterprise data, and then what you do with this data, not just for ESG in a siloed department, but as an organization as a whole. So that's kind of, our motif.
And so, I think about the theme of our webinar, which is data quality. I would imagine that every utility bill is spot on and exactly correct and all
it has
right.
to be, right? It has to be. I mean, with ESG, you misreport carbon, no one maybe is going to come after you, whatever. Maybe they will. Maybe the GRESB police will find you. But you don't pay a bill on time, or you don't extract the correct amount, or you don't have the correct date due. So the process for data quality, data accuracy, data acquisition, it has to be immaculate. There is no margin for error, and there's also no time for delay. It's not like ESG data where you can update it once a quarter, and that's fine, or even once a year if you're really just reporting to GRESB. It has to be in line with when these bills are due.
Sure. No, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's definitely for us, it's necessitated us to up our game, right, in data quality, because it won't be stood for with regards to the AP and bill payment process.
And I've always observed the folks that participate in GRESB, really to do a good, solid GRESB assessment, it's a treasure hunt around the organization, and you're silo busting. So that means that you're asking people that you oftentimes don't normally talk to for various points and data points and whatnot. And it strikes me that this is right in that sweet spot where you're going down to accounts payable and say, hey, you're sitting on the gold mine of data, right?
Absolutely.
Is that how it works?
Absolutely, yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, I thought that we'd just spend a little time because it's a really unique audience that we have here. I took a look at the list. And I see some old friends and old faces, and again, a lot of those new folks. So I wanted just to ground people again in what we do and why we do what we do. And so with GRESB, yeah, we participate in ESG, which is non-financial data. We have a framework that structures it, and that is all driven to this mission, which is to enhance shareholder value, to protect it, and by empowering sustainability practices in the real asset sector. And so we do that in this way, right? We have a systematic assessment. It goes out annually, and it's done globally. We perform objective scoring based upon peer benchmarking, and the peers are grouped based upon geographic region and property type, and they're all subject to the environmental, social, and governance issues that are brought up in the GRESB assessments. And then that peer benchmarking really helps companies understand where they are compared to peers. And oftentimes when they get their results in September, October, they're doing management gap analysis and something that I call management introspection, and making business decisions on ways that they can continue to improve and either keep up with or excel past their peer group. So if we think about our indicators, right, GRESB is set up in an ISO 14001 approach, which is plan, do, check, act. And what is a plan? A plan is having some policies, but also having some targets and making sure those targets are real and they're measurable, they're realistic, right? And then you have to roll them out. You do that during due diligence and underwriting, some risk assessments at the property level. You have some kind of reporting mechanism, some feedback mechanism that then triggers the action. So when you look at all of the questions within GRESB, they're all set up in this plan, do, check, act construct, which I think is a reason why we've been able to celebrate our 10th birthday, and we've got 900 participants globally, and it continues to increase every year.
Awesome.
All right, so and then just a little bit about this is we've got 75 institutional members and 20 major real estate associations around the globe that are really stand strong behind GRESB. And that's been able to attract 220 plus private equity firms and listed property companies to be our members. And then we've got a whole slew of industry supporters, of which a subset are data and service providers that have been very interested in upping the game on data quality. All participants get a scorecard in September, and the scorecard shows a trend analysis based on how they've been doing over time, their peer group rankings and scores, and then some histograms and spider diagrams showing areas that they either excel or may consider implementing improvements as 2019 turns to 2020. It's a pretty nice suite of products that folks get. And then also I showed on the resources slide the scoring methodology. We often get a lot of questions about how do we get scored, how does our score happen. So we're very transparent. As much as we're driving transparency in the industry, we're very transparent ourselves. And so that scoring document is out there and available for people to look at and understand. And I think one of the last points here is really who's in the room and who is GRESB relevant for. And it's a dialogue. It's a dialogue between institutional investors and folks that manage their money. And that could be either on the private equity side or the listed side. And so we've got the folks in the green box that request or require annual participation in the GRESB assessment, and then the folks in the black box who participate and provide data in and get benchmarked and work to improve their programs. So the folks in the room, the folks on the call, right, you've got a lot of investor relations folks, senior executives, portfolio managers, asset managers, and then also the analysts and property managers and folks that really make things happen on the ground, right? So that's the ecosystem of who GRESB attracts.
And I think, Dan, to the point we were talking about yesterday when we were looking at the participant list or the registrant list, we've noticed in the last 3 years that we've been doing this that it is more of those folks that are kind of joining at that higher level, whereas before we felt like it was a lot more analyst type level or asset manager type level, and now it tends to be the folks in that top of the pyramid. So.
Yeah, and same thing with like the NAREIT ESG forum. There were investor relations folks in the room, right? You can see a lot of the titles up here. These were picked off the list of the folks that are on the phone today. So yeah, that's been a sea change, and it's been really welcome to see.
And do you think that's going to help drive, propel GRESB forward even more so now that you have the attention of those folks?
Well, it's very interesting. So GRESB and even sustainability, oftentimes it starts from a groundswell down below, And you find that more organizations than not, have a lot of random acts of sustainability that are happening. But once it gets, where it gets really powerful is when it gets coordinated from a real top-down approach, and somebody in the C-suite gets excited about sustainability and what it's doing for the business, what it's doing for the bottom line, as well as growing the top line. And they say, you know what, we want to take this on as a strategic imperative. And then that really drives resources, and it drives engagement and commitment to the goal of targets and meeting those targets and reducing greenhouse gas emissions and all of the things that come with sustainability.
It's funny you say that. We recently talked with a prospect, and that's their exact story. So this call was with the CEO of the organization, very well-known organization, and the random acts of sustainability. They even had some stuff on their website. If you go to their sustainability page, there's all these things that have been done. The CEO sits there and she says, these are great things. I have no idea how they got to our website. I don't know who did them or where they are, but my quest begins today. We're going to find out, and we're going to make a more concerted effort to figure this out, and it starts and stops with me. So now that she's interested, it's really going to take off and go places. But it's exactly what you described there, is like the flip-flop. It did not start with her, but now it's almost like the tail wagging the dog, if you will. No pun intended, Henry. But yeah, absolutely.
No, that's a real typical story, right? I'm now in my 5th year at GRESB in this position, and I spend a lot of times in those same meetings. And that's, for the folks on the line, that's the typical trajectory, right? A lot of things at the ground, then it moves up to the C-suite. People start to pay attention of the good work that you're doing, and guess what? You get some more budget, you get a lot of attention, and that's only good. So I've got this slide up here, and this has been my observation as to one of the drivers of GRESB, right? Why do people do the GRESB assessment? Sometimes it's because the investor relations group has received contact from an investor that says, hey, we noticed that you haven't, or your score is a 0, or you're not in the data set, and we'd really appreciate it if you did. There's another set of folks, and I'm seeing more and more companies like this that are exhibiting curiosity. ESG is a thing. There's a lot of momentum out there, and we want to figure out how to get started. And so GRESB creates that framework, right? We don't do consulting. We just provide this framework that's vetted by the industry globally, and say, here's a series of best practices. How do you stack up? And so an organization will do it, and they get a score, and what it really seeds is market-facing competition. Because you get that score, you see where you stack up against peers. A lot of times it affirms programs that you have in place and that you're doing, and other times it reveals some gaps. Many times these gaps are well known, and they're things and initiatives that companies have wanted to do for a long time, but just haven't, they haven't bubbled to the priority list. And that competition seems like a driver. And it drives people to the far right of this graphic, which is risk management and business value. Because really, at the end of the day, that's what this is all about, is better management of risk and driving opportunities within the portfolio to harvest cost, drive down costs, harvest, lighting retrofits and the gains from that, driving up tenant satisfaction and occupancy at properties. And then it becomes that self-fulfilling loop. So that's, my view of GRESB. Our historical, there's that Bitmoji that we showed in the results event. Over time, over our years, right, we've seen this persistent push to the upper right. And the folks that are up in the upper right, they like to celebrate and love it when I show up and give them a bottle of champagne. P.S. I don't really do that. But then there's the other side of it, right? There's the folks that are just starting out, and they're like, oh, man, we got a low score, and what are we going to do? And they're kind of down in the dumps, and we know this. We know that the struggle is real, but the reality is people that are in the upper right all started in the lower left. So wherever you are on this chart, we get it, and there's a lot of resources and a lot of things that are out there to help.
It looks just like you, Dan.
Well, you made it, Healy, I think.
I believe I did.
3 years ago, I think you took my phone and made that Bitmoji. So in 2018, our global average went up yet again, and there we are. I think the number was in the 70s, and that's a strong result. So we're looking forward to another good year of progress within the industry as April 1st opens up. 78% are now in that upper right quadrant, achieving a GRESB Green Star. So good work to everybody. Keep it up. Last point, and this really moves us into a segue for our webinar here, is our focus this year on data quality. When GRESB started in 2009, we asked a simple question: can you get the data that underlies your portfolio? And we binned it, right? If you couldn't and it was 25% or less, then you answered that. If somebody had perfect data and all their properties, right? And then they were in the top bucket of 100% data quality. The reality was not a lot of companies could do that. And so it was a multi-year quest to just wrap your arms around this data. And if you're a portfolio that has, 20 billion under management, some of these REITs are that size, certainly a lot of the big private equity funds are, asking somebody for the data on that portfolio makes people's heads explode.
Agreed. And as the folks that are trying to make sense of it and gather it and help our customers, there's other layers of complexity with international, right? So you're trying to talk to people abroad or get different types of data and formats and consolidate it. And then with the structure, right? So people have third-party management, or depending how far removed they are from the assets themselves and how much control they have. And by the time sometimes you do get back to the folks that do have the data, say a chief engineer or property manager, they don't even understand the whole initiative or why they're being asked for what they're being asked for, and it frustrates them. So It's an exercise certainly of communication, change management, trying to make sense of collect herding cats, really.
Well, the change management, I really latch onto that, because I really think that all the folks on the phone, right, they want progress for their firms, they want progress for their communities, and that requires change. And oftentimes that's hard.
It is hard, but what I find is when people are explained, when it's digested to them in a way that makes sense, like we're not just asking you for this to annoy you, to burden your day, to distract you from the tasks that you need to do, but there's a bigger picture here, and this is your company trying to do something bigger, better, trying to be a good fiduciary to their investors, trying to leave the planet a better place. They'll latch onto that message, but it has to be properly digested, right?
Yeah, and I think for the folks on the phone, the point is that for GRESB repeatedly asking over the years, can you get this data? Oftentimes the answer was no. The second year somebody participates, the answer is no. The third year is, oh boy, we should. And then the fourth year they've got maybe 30% coverage. And the fifth year it jumps up to 50 or 60. Now that we're 10 years in, the process has accelerated. So organizations will spend a little time getting GRESB ready. They might join up with a company like Dobie to try to wrangle that data and be in a good position to put their best foot forward on April 1st when they get in to submit, and on July 1st when they actually do submit.
Absolutely, and that's the benefit of working with, a technology platform, is that we automate a lot of that, right? So the first step is data automation. We actually don't want to bother people. We don't want paper bills. No one wants to deal with that. We don't want anyone to send us anything. The idea is that the technology will mimic a login, pull the data, pull the information directly from the utility, directly from the hauler, connect directly with the vendor, and actually bypass, after an initial setup, bypass the property teams altogether. Because you don't want to bother them, right?
Sure.
So once you get past the heavy lift that is configuration and setup and getting those passwords and making sure everything's connected, then it just becomes kind of repetitive processes, easy to collect month after month, year after year.
So as GRESB has grown, last year we received, so we started to receive asset level data. And the 903 submissions that came in covered 79,000 assets, of which 49,000 of those came in by providing asset level data, energy, water, waste, greenhouse gas emission data for the trailing 12. And at the same time, we recognize that there's a difference between the quality of data that's provided. That's what's hard, right? So hence we have this data quality standard that we're developing. That's our 2019 initiative. And the standard is really about what does good data quality look like, and what are the processes required to get good data and to assure it. All right, so let's get on to the real topics here, the 5 ways to leverage data for GRESB greatness.
Excellent.
All right, well, so I'll turn to you, Healy. What do you think?
Sounds good. So I think, consistent with the things we've already been discussing, the data's everywhere. There's a bunch of different ways to get it. It all originates from a bill, right? So the idea is no matter where it's going, so if it's for GRESB, if it's for any of these other voluntary sustainability initiatives, or even the mandatory ones, so local municipalities that have benchmarking ordinances, it's all going back to the bill data, right? And there's a lot of overlap between these certifications. So if you enlist a technology partner that has the methodology to do as much data automation as possible, to set up a process that has integrity, to set up a process that's repetitive, and to set up a process that can continue to collect the data without impeding upon the day-to-day business, that to us is the holy grail. And as I mentioned before, when we start to tie into the accounts payable department and having those folks dependent upon the data that's in Dobie, it just elevates the level of data quality to a whole nother level, because the minute there's a late fee, the minute a bill doesn't get paid, heads are going to roll, and it's going to be our heads. So you know that the sustainability data is going to be sound if we're also the mechanism for collecting it for the accounts payable group. And then you'll be, successful at all these other things, right? Because you do have complete and accurate data.
What I really like about this graphic is that, I often say to folks, if you do the GRESB assessment, you're in great position with data, with policies, to be able to respond to these other things, whether you want to do an Energy Star certification at a property level, or have all your data to put, the data in 10Ks and Qs like SASB is looking for, or to do a carbon footprint with CDP. If you have your GRESB data in place, then you're in great condition to ship it out to the other.
Absolutely, and these are a function of, I don't think anybody does all of these. It really is, it's a flavor, it's a preference, it depends on what your organization wants, what your investors want, who your end user, your customer is, your asset class. So there's so many things, your budget, so there's so many things that go into, which combination of the alphabet soup is for you, but at the root of it all is accurate data, right? And a methodology to extract it from the properties, from the assets, that's not painful and defeats the whole purpose of why you're doing it.
But is it just like roll up your sleeves grunt work and sit down and look at paper bills, or are there some?
No, I mean, that's really what we're getting in, is just this notion of automation. We want to eliminate that as much as possible, and it's with the technology that's available these days through Dobie specifically, of course. It's you can do that, right? You can eliminate the human element.
Yeah, which is key, right? And it drives down those errors. It's my understanding that the utilities are always correct when they send bills too.
Always
right?
Correct. Always correct, including their net 10 pay terms and their customer service. Always correct. I
see. So can you tell me more about that? Because obviously for the folks on the phone, we're being a little facetious.
Yeah, of course. So dealing with utilities, of course, is not the easiest. And an anecdote, maybe not for this crowd, but just to give some context, as we expand, as I mentioned, into the greater accounts payable world, and we're looking at automating, digitizing, collecting, validating all bills, right? So you get a legal bill, you get a plumbing bill, you get a bill for fry oil because you're a quick serve restaurant, whatever it is, uniforms. We're ingesting all these bills. I assure you the most complex type of bill is always the utility bill. It always is, because different utilities call the same thing by different names. We actually have a separate app or service that we provide that's a utility bill audit, where we'll actually go back and discover that, much like, say, a cell phone plan that's 5 years out of date, it's not optimized. And you got to go back to the utility, but they're not going to come after you and let you know that you're not in the right rate class and you're overpaying by $100,000. So we've found our customers up to $200,000 off of 3 utility bills just by making a call because they were not classified properly.
That's interesting. So you had mentioned a few moments ago about trying to juice the sustainability budget or increase that sustainability budget. And are you using that to help your clients get budget for sustainability by finding utility bill errors?
Of course. So it's directly that way, but it's also anytime someone engages or starts a new endeavor, right, initiative, everyone has to prove the ROI, right? So you're going to do a sustainability initiative. There's some intangibles, like it's going to feel good, you're going to put some cool stuff on your website, and there's going to be good PR, but then there has to be a tangible business case, and we firmly believe in that. So we're not known to be the cheapest people. We don't have a free model of our software where you can enter a bunch of stuff in and kind of see where it comes out. We're going to give you a high-quality, high-touch customer service experience, and that costs money, right? So what we try to help our customers do at the offset is figure out a way to demonstrate the business case that it makes sense to do it. So you're going to invest X, but you're going to get back Y, and the payback period is going to be this. So you can make sense of it. And the way that we justify some of the payback period is by way of, the example that I just gave with savings on inaccurate tariff classes, on utility bills, or perhaps we eliminate some redundant processes in accounts payable because you have a temp or a full-time employee even that's keying in the same utility bill that Dobie's already automated through our system to report on GRESB. So things like that we're trying to help our customers put together so that budget doesn't become a barrier to the goodwill that is, the people that want to implement these sustainability efforts.
It feels like a perfect win to help the sustainability folks then have friends in, accounting and other places as they try to push forward more efforts.
It's the craziest thing, right? Like the sustainability people, why else would they ever have to talk to the accounting people? So this is,
right.
It's a unique marriage that we're influencing. The only time that it does make sense is sometimes, as I think we've talked about in past webinars or side chats, whatever, the person in charge of sustainability can often wear many hats. They could be the director of operations, the VP of asset management that sometimes wears the sustainability hat, right? So in that case, if you have someone that's over all of operations, this becomes an easier initiative because they're going to have some touch with account payable, and then they're going to have some purview over sustainability. when you're in a bigger organization and you have a dedicated sustainability officer, sustainability director, they're not necessarily caring about accounts payable, but we're going to make them do it because it can save money in their sustainability efforts. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, good. All right.
All right, I guess it's up to me to flip. All right, so automate your data gathering. I think, we touched upon this already, but automate wherever possible. And the punchline here is, like, don't make people do what a good technology and automation can do. Don't underestimate the value of your people's time. If you have property managers, you want them to be with tenants, to be engaged with leasing, customer service. You don't want them sitting there trying to figure out where their utility bills are, how to type them in, if they're wrong, where their passwords are. Automate whatever and wherever you can. That's kind of the mantra. And actually, our tagline, I don't know how new it is, maybe 12 months new at Dobie, is automate every invoice. That's kind of just our thing now.
So I don't have any real context for this because I'm not down doing that. Can you what does automate look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So I might have a graphic here. Well, a symbolic one anyways.
Okay.
The idea of automation, so it's the use of the technology such that people don't have to do anything, right? So if you have a vendor has a website, be it a utility or any other type of vendor, the website has a username and password where you can log in and get your bill, right? Your PDF bill or your bill data. So what our technology does is it mimics the human logging in. It pulls that data out and into our system, and it tags it as well. So if you have 25, 30 fields on a utility bill, now they're searchable. Okay? And then when you look at other kinds of bills as well, like I mentioned before, so fry oil, uniforms, water, whatever it is to spend at your property, once it's tagged in that way, you can start to do things like show me my spend in New England last June for water, and then that's 2-3 clicks away. You're not digging through bills and spreadsheets and trying to make sense of things. So it works great for GRESB, but then it also works great for transparency into spend, better vendor management, right? Because now you have a way to go back to a vendor and say, look, this is my spend with you globally, nationally, let's figure something out kind of thing. And then also streamlines the payment process. So where a bill might have otherwise come in the mail, that takes several days, someone has to open it, then they have to type it into a system, they might fat finger something, they got to cut a check, that person's on vacation. And a lot of businesses we find just tolerate late fees as just like business as usual. They're just like, yep, we ask them, how much are you guys paying in late fees? Sometimes they don't know and they go find out and they're horrified. Or sometimes they do know and we're horrified and they're like, yeah, we got like 6 figures in late fees, and that's just the way it is because AP can't process them fast enough.
Interesting. Huh.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well.
All right. Financial data into sustainable insights. So I think these are all kind of tying back to the same theme from where I'm concerned, but it's really this connection again between the source of this data and then the end uses of this data, and the source is similar. So don't pay twice to digitize the same bill. And the way that we figured this out actually was from one of our customers who realized that Dobie, as their sustainability company, who was simply collecting bills for purposes of GRESB reporting and Energy Star, had the bill digitized, scanned in a system, tagged 2 weeks before accounts payable. And this was an organization that was paying hundreds of thousands of dollars in late fees. So someone's light bulb went off and said, you know what, we're double paying to enter the same bill. Our AP department's 2 weeks behind our sustainability consultant / technology. What are we doing? And then we kind of said, yeah, what are you doing? Fix that. And we fixed that.
Awesome. Well, I suppose it's just, it's one piece of data and then it needs to go to different places. And it's time now. I think that the technology, all of the various business pressures are ripe for this kind of effort as we look ahead to the next 10 years. So that seems like a good, solid insight pushing ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing we'll say, in our inaugural work with accounts payable departments is they tend to get kind of left behind, right? They're back of house. They don't have the cutting edge technology. They've kind of been doing their thing the same way for 37 years, and no one wants to move their cheese. So there's a lot that can be done there. We can help them. There's zero automation, so there's immediate results.
Wow, and I thought we were going to talk about sustainability, but I can totally see it.
I invited you to Chicago in February to freeze your butt off / bore you to death with accounts payable speech.
Tremendous.
Yes.
I'm
You're
pleased
welcome.
to be here. Absolutely. All right, number 4. Oh, here you go.
All right, so measure twice, submit once, and this kind of goes back to the greater theme that we're talking about as far as data quality being an emerging motif, certainly for GRESB, and as people are in their third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh year of doing this, all you can do is just keep honing in, fine-tuning, getting better data quality, and getting increased data coverage from your assets, right? So the idea behind this too is that once you have it, and once you set up a great system up front for collecting it, validating it, and then even once it's in a system, kicking out outliers or finding anomalies and things that are wrong. So another example is you might have a great methodology for collecting data, right? So we have automation, we can log in, pull your bills, digitize it, tag everything on it. But another thing that we're looking at is if you're overpaying, right? If something's wrong. So there's a pattern, right? You get a water bill every month, it should be about the same. You get electricity bill every month, it should be about the same, unless, giant tenant moves in, giant tenant moves out, you undergo a significant energy efficiency project, something like that.
Or it goes negative 20 degrees in Chicago.
It goes negative 20 degrees for 2 days, the city shuts down, everyone has to stay home, there's no child care, families want to kill each other.
Sorry.
Anyway. Did you want to talk about that,
No, not
okay.
at all.
Great. I digress. So, but the point is then you want to see, right, if there's an anomaly, right, and if that's wrong. So last June you paid double than what you paid the June before, the system's going to automatically kick that out, and it will give you some things to do. So you get an outlier report of 20 or so things that are just anomalies, and maybe they're correct. Maybe you say, yep, nope, that one's right. We did a project or someone moved in and the energy went up, and that's accurate, but maybe not. So again, eliminating the human element of a person needing to sit there and look bill by bill and try to figure that out.
Well, the anomaly is, so that's something that GRESB does as well, right before the submission is when people are using our asset level spreadsheet and they're entering in all that data, we're also searching for weirdness or anomalies, trying to help people put their best foot forward. And there will be flags that pop up that say, hey, are you sure you should check this out? And sometimes it's correct because they had a big event, somebody moved in or out. But other times, it's really easy to mess up data and fat finger things or put in megawatts when you meant kilowatts.
Or other times, maybe there is nothing wrong, but it might be an opportunity. So if you have some budget to put towards energy efficiency improvements, initiatives, you need to get good visibility into where your spend is, right? So there's a good chance that, say, 20% of your properties are using most of your energy.
Right.
You want to focus there. So this is once the data is in there and it's accurate, right? That's the key. It has to be accurate if you're going to do these kinds of analytics and make decisions on projects based on this information. If it's wrong, then you're doing yourself a disservice.
Well, and the measure twice, cut once, that really, to me, it harkens back for the folks on the phone. If you can think back to the graphic, the 4-quadrant model of GRESB, right? The left axis is, no, you don't want to go back, is measurement and policy, or management and policy, right? And those are really the easy things to do, but it's the implementation and measurement that's hard. And we've watched organization after organization go through a couple 3-year process to really try to get their arms around the data, tighten it down, and then they start to get these insights. Which are the top 20% of my assets that are doing great? And what are the bottom 20% that might need some CapEx or maybe need some management love or something, maybe even get culled from the portfolio?
Or sometimes it's as simple as, like, if these are the top performers, what are they doing that's correct? Let's share those best practices across the portfolio, because people get so inundated day to day in their own property that they're not getting out of what happens just in that ecosystem. So. And
when I think about the top performers in GRESB, they've gone from looking at asset by asset to doing programmatic things throughout the portfolio, because they've experimented with an asset, they found that there's some real successes and said, hey, this will play in whatever city that we're in with this kind of asset, so let's roll it out.
Or to take it even one step further, we have a couple of customers that do an energy challenge. So we'll kind of normalize it for them, because obviously every building's its own special snowflake, but we'll normalize it for them and have, a certain time frame and then a certain metric. So say it's who can reduce more or who can reduce in a meaningful way or whatever it is. And then you have a challenge and you have a leaderboard, and everyone knows what happens when that starts to be transparent. No one wants to be in last place. Everybody kind of tightens it up and does something. And then one particular organization I'm thinking of, they did a cash prize for the property team, who then, of course, donated it, and then a steak dinner with the CEO. So that was just kind of a cool thing, the recognition in and of itself. But what they invested into the energy challenge versus the savings across the board. So not just the property team that won, right? But because everyone else was kind of competitive and paying attention to it, and knew their CEO cared, and there was a steak dinner on the line, it drove something like over $1 million in savings.
Wow. Yeah, well, that's that's that earlier slide about driving competition, right? You get into it because either someone makes it your job, or you become curious about it, and you just want to help your organization, help your career, whatever. And having programs like that where you actually foster competition writ large across an organization has huge benefits. That's great.
I have the echo of the voice of Mrs. Kamen, my third grade homeroom teacher, who would come around and whisper in your ears, you're cutting paper. She'd say, haste makes waste, and she'd spit a little bit, but it's kind of true, right?
It's very true. Yeah. Haste makes waste. That's spot on. Boy, I remember those days fondly.
Vivid memories.
Right. Yeah, and another good thing to close, right?
Absolutely. Mrs. Kamen didn't say this, but other.
I think my mom did.
Could have been your mom.
Your mom probably too.
No, not my mom.
Oh, it's a Midwestern thing. Anyway, so what is this? The early bird gets the worm.
So as these things go, and I think last year we gave the analogy, which is perhaps an oldie but a goodie, of like training for a marathon, right? So if you want to run a marathon in June, you don't start training for it in May, right? You got to get ahead of it. You got to get your ducks in a row. You want to have time to set up these great processes that we talked about, to do data automation, to get a handle on things, to not stress your teams, to not stress your consultants and technology partner. So just get started, just get going. And that could mean different things for different folks. So we already have, if it's people that we've worked with last year, it's already well underway. It's been underway the whole year. If it's someone on the line right now that you're thinking about doing it this year, it's not too late yet, but it's going to be soon. And don't be afraid to, call me, call Dan, ask questions in a non-obligation type way. If you just want to know, like, what is it like? Do I want to start this year? Do I want to spend the next 12 months getting GRESB ready and do it next year? And those are things that we can kind of offer a different perspective on based on what it is you're trying to do. So, but don't wait to get started. Don't kind of rest on the laurels because it's February and this thing's not due till June. Just don't.
Well, so the strategy that I watch a lot of folks do, and there's, the people that have done it before that are veterans, they're in good shape. Because when they log in on April 1st, when the portal opens, they'll see all their responses from last year. So the first year is a pretty...
First year's a lift.
It's a lift.
It's a lift.
Right. So
especially with the qualitative portion, right, of the survey, where you have to kind of enter all these things in for the first time.
Sure. And so all those things exist for your second time around. If it is your first time, right, there's no better thing to do than just to get started. And I observe that folks use this as this management gap analysis that I talked about. And if you're looking to say, the question on the GRESB data and how much of your portfolio coverage, there are things you can do to just sort of triage the situation. And if you've got 3 or 4 really big assets, get the data for those and get those into the system, because now you've got to start, you've got some processes in place that you can build on in 2020. And your data coverage will be not perfect, but it'll be solid. And you can build on that. And that's the whole idea. Nobody snaps their fingers and all of a sudden becomes sustainable overnight. It's a 2, 3, 4. Actually, it's pretty much an endless process to go down this path.
Absolutely. So we have the timeline here up on the screen, which I think is helpful to see at a glance. But there's a lot of stuff that has to happen before July 1st. And whether you're working with a technology partner, a consultant, doing it yourself, it is a marathon, and it's not a sprint, and sooner the better.
Well, so to this slide, right, so February 1st, just last week, we released the pre-release of the GRESB Real Estate Assessment, so it's out there, it's online, and people can go and take a look and see what the questions are this year. It's been held stable from last year. There's small tweaks that happen along the way, but it should be the assessment that people know and know well. And on April 1st, that portal opens. In March, we had showed our training is going to happen, so that's what the month ahead looks like, all leading up to April 1. And then the other key milestone, which is the big red arrow in there, are the response checks. Mm-hmm. And those can be requested only if you're complete with your assessment. And that's not being complete by June 30th. It's actually being complete in May, right? So...
not to mention when it reaches its capacity and people get kicked out.
Oh, I know. So we learned some lessons on that last year. Yeah.
Too soon?
No, we had a great response rate, and so as GRESB becomes more utilized by the industry, more people value that response check. And so we had a capacity problem last year that we've worked really hard to hopefully remedy this year. So those response checks, if you want to request them, are to be requested towards the end of May, and that means that you've started early, you've got that data, and you've got everything ready, set to go. So, and then, July 1st is that deadline for submission, and all of the results, the scorecards that we showed before, are issued in early September, the first week of September, and then people get to work looking ahead to 2020.
Excellent.
Hey, all right, but who's this? This is a new dog.
That's not Henry.
Oh, okay. Well, Henry's not jealous. He's not barking. That's good. All right. Are there questions? So, for the moderators, the folks, are there questions that have come in on the line?
We do have some questions. Well, first off, thank you for all this insightful information, Healy and Dan. You've given our listeners a lot to think about. So with those 14 or so minutes that we have remaining, we'll go through the questions that have come in so far and any others that continue to roll in here. First off, we've got, what are some best practices for ensuring my data quality?
Well, I know that, so we have this asset level spreadsheet that we offer folks, and it really just lines up the data in a way that GRESB can consume it and do it in a global way. But I know that people will take that spreadsheet, they'll take it offline, they'll do their own manipulations. People really get in there to want to make sure that they're putting forth good data. And some of them will actually go and hire some third parties to do assurance. And I know that some of the big four accounting firms will be offering pricey RFPs or responses to RFPs. But data assurance is a thing, right? And that's how companies have gone to try to increase the quality of their data.
What percentage of the 900 or so submissions would you say do that assurance?
Yeah.
Only a few still, right?
Well,
and is it cost prohibitive?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
It's labor intensive too, because I know we have a couple customers that do it, and we work in conjunction with the auditor from E&Y or PwC, and it's labor intensive. But yeah, so you think it's just.
Well, but at the same time, what do institutional investors want? They want to know that that data is quality data. Mm-hmm. And as non-financial data looks to elevate on par with financial data, right? Financial data is assured. Non-financial data should go through certain processes and practices. So I've had a number of people recently look at me and say, yeah, we assure on the accounting side. We've come to grips that we should assure on the non-financial side. And these are folks that have been participating for 5, 6, 7+ years. Mm-hmm. So I can't say, I don't want to know if that's a best practice, right?
That's what I was going to say, yeah. Aside from assurance, which is kind of aspirational, it sounds like, what other best practices could you do if that's prohibitive for you?
Well, a lot of folks will, put their things in Energy Star, but then we had the government shutdown, so that becomes tricky, mm-hmm. right?
I will harp on that point for 1 minute, because that's actually been not monumental for our business, but important, right? So if you do have, everyone thought Energy Star is so reliable, right? And you have a handful of consultants that they're like, we don't use a platform, or I don't have a platform because we put everything in Energy Star. Well, when Energy Star is gone, the customers that had their information in Dobie were fine. The ones that are depending on consultants who put it all in Energy Star are not fine. Mm-hmm. So just food for thought.
Right. So, and that's been the de facto driver in our industry in the United States, but that's not the case globally. So I just know that people get out ahead of this and have to put in processes, but processes are business specific to get down to the line and get that data back up. I guess I can't offer a real good best practice because it's going to be unique to the company, but just getting out ahead of it and being a good champion and talking about why this is important, not or beyond energy, seems like a solid idea.
And what I might add onto it, maybe to challenge people a bit further, is try to get some level of automation, right? So I mentioned that Dobie, like our rallying cry is automate every invoice. Well, that might not happen year 1, year 2, even year 5 or 8, right? But try to get some level of automation. So if it's 10% automated off the get-go, maybe next year it could be 25% automated. Maybe it could be 30% automated. Because once you remove the human element, accuracy goes up, time savings happen, good things start to happen. So challenge everyone to automate.
I'm seeing this other question that came in about what else can my data be used for, mm-hmm. right? So you've got obviously analysts that love data are looking for, you brought up the spend on various, vendors, whether it's your legal bill or water or waste. But then there's also, just looking at the best practices of certain buildings. And I know that I talk to lots of folks that find these anomalies and say, wow, we had no idea that there was a water leak. It was underground, but this building, once this GRESB thing showed up and made us get that water bill and pay attention to it, wow, we found some pretty unique stuff that they went and fixed. Are there other areas where the data really comes to play? I mean, I guess in your financials.
Yeah, I mean, it's things we talked about, and then, if we can find some sort of marriage between the AP process and the ESG folks, payment, right? Approvals and payment. So you got to pay all those bills. So you got to get the data off of them to pay them on time, to eliminate late fees.
Well, that late fee thing that you brought up before, that's staggering, right? The
late fees are huge, and then the tariff, the utility bill audit service that we offer is huge, because almost every bill, no one is optimized when it comes to that kind of thing. Someone is going to have a rate class that's wrong, or that never got updated, or it's just dealing with the nature of dealing with utilities.
All right, what else?
Moving on from that one, we've gotten a couple questions coming in regarding tenant controlled data or triple net leases. So pretty specific to Dobie on this one. How does Dobie handle getting energy data for properties with triple net leases? If tenant pays the bills and the building owner is reporting to GRESB, it's a challenge to get the actual energy data and usage.
Absolutely, and I think, Dan, we talked about this a lot last year, right? Because I think those industrial folks, tend to get frustrated, or open air retail or other scenarios where that applies, where they say, I really don't have control. My tenants pay the bills. They don't want to share it with me. What can I do? So I'll try to regurgitate 2 answers from last year.
Well, and then I've got
and then you might have some ideas. So first and foremost, remember that you're being benchmarked against other folks that are in a similar boat, right? So no one is comparing an industrial REIT to a commercial office building where it's easier to get data. So you're in a sandbox with other people that have similar problems. So that kind of level sets the playing field. And then the other thing is if there are still things under management control, like parking lot lights or exterior lighting or common areas, we'll take what we can get, right? I mean, and there's something to be had for that. As far as we've had some folks that have those types of asset classes that we've tried to work with them to do some sort of tenant communication initiative where we're trying to explain to them, here's why we're trying to do it. And some of them will cooperate, but it's difficult. It's definitely difficult, even when you explain to them why you want the information. They're just not always willing to share it with the landlord.
So what I see happen are, the industrial, the multifamily folks, and the retail, they will go and get every asset into, the asset level spreadsheet and track the common area. Got to tackle the common area first. And then there are programs, particularly I'm thinking the green lease program, where putting energy data sharing as a clause in the lease has become a thing. And it doesn't happen again overnight. You need a lease that rolls over.
Especially with industrial, leases tend to be longer, 10, 15-year leases.
Right. So there's 2 ways to play. Either on the lease roll, you put these clauses in there, and I actually had a conversation with somebody yesterday where they were telling me of a property manager that had the first 12 months happen after a green lease clause, who was very excited to go get that energy data and be able to report it back and help with the GRESB score, right?
Sure.
So that was neat. The other way to go is...
The one thing, I'm sorry to interrupt you, one thing is if that does become a deal breaker, though, like to this lease, right? If they're like, this is a go,
yeah, it goes away.
But it's the first thing to go. I mean, no one's going to be like, no, we will not allow you.
But I think it's important for the people on the phone to realize that there are organizations that have been able to do this, and they now have these green lease clauses as standard in their clauses. They haven't been negotiated out, and they're in place, and now the data is starting to flow. So my point before about, sustainability doesn't just happen overnight. It's a 2, 3, 4, 5, and sometimes an endless march, right? You have to start somewhere. And so by having some lease terms with some clauses, that's one thing. The other approach is, straight up blocking and tackling tenant engagement, where you look and say, all right, what are some of my top tenants who have real sustainability metrics and mandates, and reaching out to them on a pilot program, because if you can get one and show some success with that, then it will, have a ripple effect to others. And don't think you're alone, because there's, besides the 150 folks on the phone, there's the 900 participants in GRESB and the others that are curious who are all faced with the same conundrum. And the beautiful thing about GRESB is it to Healey's point about you get peer grouped in with others like you. What we watch for is we watch for a breakout. And once a breakout happens, somebody solves this problem, starts making some headway on it, it shows the industry that it's possible and that you too can do it. So whether it's through tenant engagement, through some lease clauses, whatever it takes, it's not going to happen overnight, but it is happening. And it's a slow, solid increase. So I just want to leave that thought with the folks. All right, looks like we're hitting to the top of the hour.
I think we have time for one more.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Switching gears a little bit. Do you see the WELL building standard being an important third-party certification for health and wellness metrics, similar to how LEED has been an environmental metric to date?
Well, I think that's a great question. So WELL has carved out a really solid niche in what it means to be a well-run, good indoor environmental quality building. And so the WELL standards have been a tremendous step forward for the industry in that fashion. So I'd have to say yes. And at the same time, we have all of the building labels are strong supporters of GRESB, whether it's Green Star in Australia to the folks in France with theirs.
HQE, I think, is theirs.
Exactly. So, from my perspective, certifications are a strong market signal to external parties to communicate, hey, something special is happening at this asset. So for something that's well certified, it's like, hey, they've gone through a lot of rigor and testing to show that this building is superior on a whole bunch of metrics. And that should matter at what I call a financial moment of truth, whether it's leasing or sale.
And the only thing I might add on top of that, so this might offend the USGBC and you, because I know WELL is a USGBC standard, but can I talk about Fitwell?
You can talk about whatever you want.
Okay.
I'm agnostic.
I want to offend my guests.
I'm agnostic on all of this stuff.
Fair enough. So WELL is amazing. In short, it can be cost prohibitive when looking at an ops budget, and hopefully that's something that USGBC knows and maybe is working on. When you're developing, you're putting up a $300 million development tower, it's no problem. You embed WELL in there. When you're talking about an ops budget of a building that's trying to do it in the existing state, what we found is for folks even who've investigated it, they kind of back off because it's expensive. So there is Fitwell, which is kind of like a WELL light, if you will, that is a bit more attainable, but offers some of the similar concepts. So well-being, access to water, views, clean air, less sick days, all of that kind of thing that's posh at the moment, but in a way that might just be more cost friendly.
Well, so to bring it back up to the portfolio level, GRESB 3 years ago launched the health and well-being module, and we introduced new ideas to the market through modules. So 3 years ago, health and well-being through the WELL standard really started to bubble up as something that was to be looked at and taken seriously and important in the industry. So the health and well-being module attracted a good solid subset. Several hundred of our participants submitted an additional 10 questions on the health and well-being module. This year, we've retired that module, and we've actually taken the concepts and some of the questions and embedded them straight up in the GRESB assessment. And now our current module is the resilience module. And resilience, as I mentioned, it was talked about at IRE, IVIP Americas, and is an important construct as climate change continues to march forward. So health and well-being is key, and now it's going to be forever part of GRESB, and folks that have a WELL certification certainly get credit for that when doing their GRESB submission. And now the same thing with resilience, where we're trying to understand what are the best practices in the industry. Last year we put it out there, we got a good solid response. This year we're tightening it up a little bit more to really dive down in the specific strategies that people are pursuing, and then next year we're going to bring it home and do the same thing and bake it into the GRESB assessment.
And I think people are interested in it. The health, like if energy efficiency was the notion of like the 2000s, I think health and well-being is kind of the notion. And I might even ask, we have 2 live millennials in the room. Everyone wants to know, what do millennials want? Did you care to work in a place that's energy efficient, or more so like this concept of well and healthy?
We want it all.
Of course. The quintessential millennial answer. And you deserve it all.
Oh, thanks.
Well, with that, what do you? I think we have hit the top of the hour, right on the nose.
We have.
Wow.
Good timing. That's all the time we've got for today. So thank you to our listeners for joining us. And just a reminder that the video of this webinar will be available shortly.
Great. Thanks for having me, folks. Really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure.
All right. Over and out, everybody on the phone. Be safe. Have a great day.
Thanks for joining us.